Perfect. So let's all get yourself set up. We're going to start lying on our backs tonight. As always, you can have your props nearby if you want a blanket, if you want some blocks, just to have them on hand as we go through the class. So we'll start lying on the back, making yourself nice and comfortable. So having the option to bend the knees. You can always have legs straight, so just kind of doing what feels good for you tonight. Once you find yourself in a nice comfortable position lying on the back, just coming into a little bit of a breath awareness. You can have the hands onto the belly, so oftentimes one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest is a nice way to tune into that breath awareness here. So as we're taking a couple of breaths, we're just looking for that feedback. So we're feeling for that lower hand to rise up onto the belly and to fall. Good. So looking to inhale in, feeling the belly button reach towards the ceiling. As you exhale out, let the belly button fall. Just taking a couple slow breaths here. Again, just tuning into how you're feeling on this Thursday evening. I know I'm sure the sun was tempting to go for a walk or something this evening, so thank you for tuning into yoga instead. Just taking this time for yourself tonight, making sure you feel good as you move through the practice. Just moving with that slow intention as we go through class tonight. So we'll take a few more breaths here, again, feeling for that full breath in towards that belly, that full diaphragmatic breath here. As you exhale, let that air creep out through the nose. Taking deep breaths in through the nose. Finding that expansion through the lungs, expansion through the rib cage. And exhale, let that all go. Do one more breath in here. And release. Good. Take an inhale. Let's reach the arms overhead, legs nice and long. So coming into a nice full stretch here. And taking a big breath in. And as you exhale, walk the feet to the right corner of the mat. Walk the hands to the right corner of the mat. So we're coming into a little side bend here, just lightly onto the mat. Just pausing for a nice breath in, so we're breathing to the left side body. One more breath on this side. On your next exhale, walk yourself back into the middle and walk your hands over to the left side, legs over to the left side, coming to a nice kind of C shape, banana shape. And breathing into the right side body here. Nice deep breath in. Nice expansion and exhale. Good. One more breath in. Exhale, walk yourself back into the middle of the mat. And then let's get that right knee coming in towards the chest. So inhale, hugging the right knee in towards the chest. You can always bend that left leg to support the low back a little bit more. It'll help your low back stay a bit more neutral. Or keep that left leg straight, whatever feels best for your body here. So wrapping your hands around either the shins or behind the right thigh, we're just coming into a little bit of a squeeze. So just pull that thigh in towards the belly here. And take a deep breath in here. Exhale, relax. Nice deep breath in. Exhale, relax. And then pull that knee a little bit across towards your opposite armpit. So just kind of changing the angle a little bit of that right knee, just angling slightly towards that left armpit. Hoping to feel a little bit of a stretch on that outer right hip there. Again, that front of the hip shouldn't feel pinchy. So if it does, just ease off a little bit. I don't want you to pulling into any pinching sensations. Just taking a deep breath in. Again, trying to get that belly breath as we're breathing. On your next exhale, just soften that leg a little bit and come into little circles with that leg. So you can just guide the circles with your hands if that feels comfortable. Just moving little circles around that right hip. And I always like to think of this as a bit of a massage in the right hip. Just getting a little bit of that joint lubrication, getting a little bit of body awareness through that right hip crease. Then change directions, move into the other circle direction. Nice and slow, again, moving with the breath. So trying to see if you can kind of time some of that movement with how you're breathing tonight. So maybe kind of a half circle is one inhale, another half circle is an exhale. So just play with how that movement can be paired with how we're breathing here. And see how that changes the practice. If you haven't already, change the direction of the circle just so we get even both ways. And then we're going to pause into center and then hug the hands behind the right thigh. So moving into some knee movement, the back of the hamstring. You're going to inhale, the right leg comes up towards the ceiling. So stretching that right leg up to the ceiling, feel that back of the hamstring stretch. And exhale, that knee bends back down towards the ground. Good. Take a nice deep breath in, stretch that leg up towards the ceiling. And exhale down. Good. Again, moving on your own time here, so I'll let you guys find your breath with movement. You can pause at the top if you like. You can play with the ankle movement as well. So if you pull the toes towards the face as the leg is straightened, it's going to add more tension toward the back of the leg. So find a kind of tension or point of stretch that feels tolerable or feels good for your body. Good. Just waking up the back of the leg here. And then pause kind of halfway through straight leg and bent leg and move into some ankle motion here. So just point the foot towards your face and point it away from you. So doing a little bit of ankle connection here, connecting to the movement of the foot. And then perform little circles, leading with that big toe, getting yourself forming a nice big circle. One direction. And circle the other direction. So we're getting the whole leg warmed up here. Getting some movement into all the joints here of that lower body. And then on your next exhale, just pause the movement, bend the knee back into the chest. And you can hug both knees into the chest as we switch sides. You can always do a little rock and roll here as you hug both knees into transition. And then keep the left knee hugged as the right leg straightens. The right leg can always be bent for some support to the low back as well. Just pausing by hugging that knee into the chest again, giving yourself a little bit of support from the arms. Just to pull that leg in again, avoiding any pinching sensation through the hip. I'm still seeing if we can breathe into the belly here. Nice deep breath as we're holding the knee towards the chest. Just pausing for some stillness. And then changing the angle slightly. Can you pull that knee a little bit towards the right armpit? And see if you can get a little different angle of the left glute stretching. Again, if you need to ease off to avoid any pinching, kind of find that position that works for your hip. And again, coming back into that nice breath, that nice awareness as we're holding this. And exhale, ease off and come into little circles again. So coming into your own little massage into that hip joint. As big or as little as feels good. Again, seeing how you can tune into that kind of little stirring the pot action of that hip and the hip crease. And tune into how we can guide the inhale, guide the exhale as we stir away. And change directions. And moving with intention, your upper arms can help support the movement as much or as little as you need. And pause here and hug the hands behind the thigh. And taking an inhale in as you straighten that leg towards the ceiling. Nice stretch to the back of the leg. And exhale, bend that knee. And moving nice and slow, let you guys bring your own movement awareness here. So again, holding for as long as you feel necessary at the top. And just getting some support here. Again, the hands can support through the back of the left thigh without bringing too much effort into the upper body. So I still want your shoulders to be relaxed on the floor, head relaxed. No gripping through the jaw. And again, pause halfway between straightening and bending and just move the ankle. So pump the ankle here a little bit. So kind of point the foot away and then pull the toes towards you. Nice and slow. And then move into little circles, leading with that big toe. And again, coming into that breath connection. Saying hello to the ankle joint here. And saying hello to the lower body as we're moving through. And pausing the motion here, we can hug both knees back into the chest for a moment. Can rock left to right again. And then bring both feet onto the floor, hip width apart. Hugging the hands alongside the pelvis, so both hands on top of the hip bones or the pelvis bones there, just so you can kind of feel around that pelvic bowl. Coming into a little bit of that pelvic tilt awareness here. So take an inhale, let your pelvis roll forward, so you're getting a little bit of space at the low back. And then exhale, start to flatten the low back towards the ground. Inhale, rolling that pelvis forward, coming into a little pelvic tilt forward. And exhale, coming into that pelvic tilt backwards. So just moving a little bit forward again, using that breath. Inhale in. And as we use that exhale back. Then bringing in that core connection as we're doing this. And so as we're coming into that posterior, that backwards tilt, can you think of squeezing a little bit through the belly to help get into that posterior tilt, getting a little bit of that core connection there. So as we exhale, think of squeezing a little bit through those belly muscles, through those inner core muscles. Good. And then find the space between those extremes. So find your neutral spine that feels good for your body here. So again, kind of between a big arch and between flattening. And as we're breathing here, taking a breath in, and again, using that exhale to find that connection towards the belly. You can always use the fingertips that are kind of pulling just inside that pelvic bone to feel a little bit of that core contraction with the exhale here. And if we feel comfortable on your next exhale, you can lift that right leg off the floor, coming into a little bit of a march. And if you want to, you can bring that left leg up as well, as long as that low back is not moving. So as long as you can maintain neutral spine. Otherwise, just come into little marches, alternating up and down from one leg. So as we come through, if your both legs are lifted, just drop one heel down towards the floor. Inhale back in. If both feet are on the floor, just lifting up and down, alternating nice and slow. Just getting a little bit of that core connection here tonight. Seeing if you can make sure that the breath is still going into that belly as we're doing this effort. So I don't want to feel any tension in the upper chest, tension through the shoulders or the neck here. And doing one more march on each side wherever we are. Letting yourself relax down, walk the feet out so their kind of feet are hip width apart or further. And as we inhale, let the knees rock over towards the right side. Just pause for a breath here. So knees are nice and wide, knees falling over to the right side. Nice big breath in. Exhale, knees back in towards center. And take a breath over as we switch the leg position, knees rock over to the left side. Take a nice deep breath in. And exhale. And then from there, we're going to roll all the way over. So we're going to come onto hands and knees position as we come up into tabletop. Good. So finding your tabletop. If you do have sensitive knees, you can put your blanket rolled up underneath the knees if that feels comfortable for you. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips here. Let's just come into a little cat-cow to awaken the spine here as well. So you're going to inhale looking forward as that belly drops towards the floor, coming into cow. And then exhale, run through the spine as we tuck that tailbone under, coming through cat. And moving nice and slow, seeing if you can lead with that tailbone first, leading with that tailbone, rocking forward into cow. Leading with the tailbone, rocking under into cat. Again, thinking of that movement segment by segment in the spine. And as always, just find your own body awareness tonight. So any kind of wiggles, any circles, any rock and rolls. Just come into some of your own creative movements in your cat-cow. Just making it feel good. And then pausing through our tabletop position, curling those toes under for me. So if you kind of curl both toes underneath the mat, enough that we get a little bit of a stretch onto the base of the feet here. So we're actually going to sit back onto the heels. If that's too intense, you can pause here. If you want to come a little bit farther back, you can start by sitting up nice and tall in a kind of a tall kneeling position here. If you want to intensify the stretch, you sit your hips back towards the heels even further, putting a bit more weight through the heels. You can always use a block or a prop to sit on to decrease some of that tension as well, if you feel like it's too much of an intense stretch on the back of the feet. So a lot of options here. You're going to feel a good stretch on that plantar fascia. It'll feel a little intense, but we'll distract you with the forearm stretch. You'll bring that right arm forward for you, and then help your left hand, just kind of pulling the hand towards you here. Just getting a little stretch here on that right side. And using that breath to calm down any kind of intense feelings here in the stretch. It is a pretty intense stretch. Using that nice breathing to calm it down. And switch the directions of the hand. You can pull the hand up, kind of fingertips towards the ceiling as you pull the hand back towards you the other way. So stretch the other side of the forearm on the right side. One more breath here. Exhale, hands come down. Give yourself a little bit of a tap out so you kind of get, just do a little tap out on the feet there. And we'll do it one more time because it's so much fun. So then curl those toes under again. Again, find your level of how intense you want to stretch the base of the feet. Let's kind of distract ourselves using the left hand. Fingertips facing down towards the floor to start. Use that right hand to pull the palm towards you. Good. And using that breath here. And taking as much break from it as you need, but try to stick through it if you can. Good. A little bit longer here. Switch the direction so fingertips come up towards the ceiling on the left hand, then pull the hand again back towards you. Good. Almost there. Almost there. One more breath in. Exhale, come back down again. Give yourself a little bit of a tap out. Good. Give those feet a little bit of love. Perfect. All right. Coming back into that hands and knees position. So again, if your hands are a little bit uncomfortable in the wrist crease, you can always come onto your fists or come onto your elbows as we go through this. So find what works for you. The hands are flat onto the floor, fingertips nice and spread apart. Again, finding that connection towards that thumb mound and pointer finger to feel a bit more support through the wrists here. Finding your neutral spine, so you can do a little bit of a movement through the pelvis if you need to find your neutral spine. But once you feel secure, again, looking into the shoulders. And so if you feel like the shoulders are kind of slumping down towards the floor, can you push a little bit of effort into the hands, wrap the armpits a little bit in towards each other so we get some connection from the upper body and the lower body. Then we'll get that core to connect the two. So again, thinking of that kind of breath into the belly, the core support in towards the belly. Once we feel even here, we're going to inhale, bring that right leg back behind us. So right leg coming back, and right leg's going to lift up off the floor. If you want to go a bit further, that right knee can bend. We're going to come into circles at the hip from here. So you're going to take an inhale, bring the hip out to the side. So think of bringing the knee kind of as if you're a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. And then keep that circle going by bringing the knee in towards the center as the hip comes back into tabletop position. And then bring it back up towards the ceiling. So we're kind of coming into a big circular motion in through the hip, working through each position. So seeing if you can perform a nice big circle as you keep that core awareness, as you keep that pelvis level. So as you're opening the hip out into your fire hydrant, try not to rotate the pelvis. So try to keep that pelvis pointing down towards the floor as you're moving through those hips. Good. And then if you're going through it, change directions for me just so we get both directions here and see how that effort changes as we change directions. You should feel some effort through that right glute, effort into the core, and even weight distribution into the hands. Good. And then next time that hip is in your fire hydrant position as it's out to the side, stretch the leg out and put the foot onto the floor. Good. I'm just going to change directions here. So now we're in this position where that right foot, left knee are nice and aligned. We're just going to walk ourselves up nice and tall in this position. Hands come back onto the hips just to give yourself some more feedback. So again, come into that neutral spine. So if you feel like you've kind of gone out of it, you can come into a little bit of that pelvic tilt awareness to find where you feel nice and tall in the spine. Working into the shoulders here, you're going to take an inhale, roll up towards the ears, and exhale, roll down. Good. Inhale, roll up, and exhale, roll down. There's a little movement I discovered that I like. I'll show you guys here. It's kind of weird. I just bend my elbows and have the hands resting on the shoulders. You can kind of just do like little shoulder circles here too. So you can kind of just move with the elbows. So we're just kind of moving through the whole body tonight. And a little bit of control. And then switch directions. Good. Like the little wings. You guys all look great. Little butterflies or something. Alright, pausing here. Hands come back onto the hips. Then we're going to inhale, arms come up overhead. And if you want to come into a side bend, if you have a block hand, you can always bring the block to the left side if you want some support here. We're going to come into that left side bend. So we're going to take a big breath in and then exhale left hand onto the mat or onto the block as we come into a nice side stretch here. So again, do what feels good for the body or to stay upright in center. Trying to keep yourself level here. Socrates, just switch. Yeah, you got it. Switch directions there. Yeah, good. So you're feeling that right side stretch. Good. Take a breath in. Exhale, come back up through center. Hands can come back to the hips. And then hands come into center and both legs come back into our tabletop position. So switching sides here. So I'm just going to turn around so you can see the other side. So from our tabletop, again, find that nice control in your tabletop. So get a bit of connection to the shoulders, a little bit of hug into the armpits, a little bit of connection to that belly. So we can see if we can stay in this nice position as we move our left hip. Inhale, left hip comes back behind you. You can always bend that knee here so you have a bit more space and control. Take a breath in as you open that left leg out to the side. And then create those little circles in that hip joint as the knee comes forward towards the hand, back into center, and then back behind you. So drawing a nice big circle with control, trying to keep yourself level here. Good. Nice and controlled. And switch directions, moving slowly. And then next time you're out with that leg out to the side in our fire hydrant, you're going to straighten that leg and put the foot onto the floor. So coming with that left leg and kind of right knee in a relative alignment there. Going to come up nice and tall. So again, we're coming back into our nice tall position here. Hands onto the hips. Come back into finding your neutral spine. You're kind of staying in core awareness. Hands can come back into the shoulders if you guys like that. And then we'll come into little circles here again. And switching sides. Good. And pausing, hands come back to the hips. So we're going to inhale, arms come up overhead. If you want to change your block position, bring a block over to that right side if you need it. And then exhale, right hand comes down towards block support or to the ground as that left arm reaches overhead. So again, you just find your depth here. Trying to keep the connection of that left foot onto the floor. And taking a breath into that left side body here. Right arm is supporting, so you're not putting too much effort into the right wrist or the right fingertips. Just enough to keep you supported without falling into that arm. One more breath in. Exhale, come back up nice and tall. Hands come back into center. And then we're going to stand up from here, so you can bring that leg back in towards center. And then we can curl those toes under. Just work towards standing up nice and slow and controlled. My head's gonna get cut off here, but that's okay. So we'll come into our mountain pose just to get yourself nice and controlled here. So palms facing forward, feet hip width apart, toes nice and spread onto your mat so you feel nice and grounded onto the mat. Just do a little bit of shifting forward and back, so getting a bit of awareness into both feet here. Palms facing forward, so just shift your weight a little bit forward towards the toes, a little bit back towards the heels, until you can find yourself feeling nice and even, where we're no longer moving, but you feel yourself supported through both feet. Knees slightly bent. Again, from this position, tailbone slightly tucked under, shoulders back slightly, chin tucked in. Nice mountain pose. Lots of things to think about in our mountain pose. Take a deep breath in here. We're going to inhale, arms come up overhead. Nice full breath in, full stretch overhead. And exhale, hands come in through center. Good. Take a deep breath up. Arms come up overhead. Exhale, hands come in through center. One more through here. Arms come up overhead. And exhale in through center. Good. Coming in through our tree pose here tonight. So again, hands can start on the hips just so you feel yourself level through the hips, level through that left leg to start. So left leg's a bit bent, keeping all of our weight evenly distributed. Right leg's going to lift up. You can have the foot onto the floor. You can have the foot onto the calf or foot on the inner thigh. You can always support yourself up wherever you are. The idea here is we're keeping the hand on the pelvis just so you can feel what's happening. Again, I want that effort with that right leg opening up, coming from that hip bone versus you twisting with the torso or with the pelvis. So think of a bit of that right glute doing the effort to open those hips up, rotating through that right hip socket. And then to give some awareness, pushing your kind of feet in towards each other. So, I guess, right leg in towards that left leg, wherever you are. Good. If you want to move the arms, you can inhale, the arms come up overhead. Just really stretch out the arms nice. So try to reach into the opposite directions, reach the fingers nice and spread apart here. I'm trying to reach without letting the shoulders shrug. So don't reach with kind of a shoulder shrug. Can you reach with a bit of control, keeping the shoulder blades onto the back without shrugging up towards the ears. Good. One more breath in. Exhale, bring the hands back in through center. Everyone looks lovely. Hands come onto the hip and let your right foot, come back down to the floor. Switching sides here, so find yourself even into the right foot, right knee slightly bent. And again, left foot comes up to your position of choice. So floor, inner calf, inner thigh. And again, keeping the connection towards the pelvis here, connection towards those core muscles to keep you nice and supported. Again, that left hip's doing the work to rotate through the hip socket. So find that left glute control. If you want to bring the arms up overhead, you can. You're going to reach the arms in opposite directions. Reach the fingers out nice and wide. Good. Just taking that breath here, taking that awareness. And reach the hands back in through chest, back in through heart center. Hands can come back into the hips. And slowly bring that leg back down. Good. Gonna come back onto lying onto the back. So if you want to, you can come into a forward fold. You can come right onto your lower back, up to you. If you're coming into your forward fold, inhale, arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hinging at the hips. Let yourself come all the way forward. You can just pause here. So if you want to have knees bent, you can. If you want to straighten those legs a bit more, you can just let yourself hang heavy here. Heads relaxed. You can always hang onto the hands on towards the elbow creases here. Let yourself kind of come into a little bit of a fold. Good. And then hands come down to the mat, knees come back down to the mat. You're going to roll yourself over towards your low back again. So rolling yourself on towards that low back. Good. And then coming into a little bit of a deeper hip stretch as we're lying back and closing down. You're going to keep those knees bent. Right knee hugs in towards the chest. Cross the right foot over the left thigh. So we're coming into our figure four stretch here. So that right hip is opening out again. Option to bring the hands interlaced behind the left thigh or in front of the left shin, depending on how deep you want to go. I'm trying to find some connection to the neck. If you feel like your neck is kind of reaching back to get you into the stretch, you've probably gone a bit too deep, so make sure your neck is nice and controlled in our neutral spine. You can always use a stretching strap or a blanket to support around that left thigh if you need to. And keeping that right foot engaged too, so pull those right toes towards your shin. Good. Just taking a couple moments here, so we're really just going to start to slow down. Just hold this a little bit longer than the other poses tonight. Just come back into that breath connection. You can close the eyes if that feels comfortable. Just taking the time here, feeling that right hip stretching open. And as always, if that stretch feels too much, you can always just release and keep that left foot onto the floor and just hold the figure four without the hands. And just seeing what feels good. And taking one more breath on this side. Exhale, release the left hands. If they're interlaced, let the right foot come down to the floor. And then switching sides, bend the left knee in, cross the left foot over the right thigh, and always have the option here to go a bit deeper if you'd like by pulling the right thigh in towards the chest or interlacing the hands in front of the left, or the right shins, I should say. Again, doing what you can to open up that left hip. Connecting the back of the head with the floor still. Chin slightly tucked. Breathing deeply. I'm just taking a few moments here. And slowly taking one more breath in. And after you're finished here, just releasing yourself down and curling the legs, coming into your final Shavasana. So the meeting's going to cut us out very shortly. So I want you to do any extra wiggles you want, anything you need before coming into your final Shavasana. And then stay in your Shavasana, which is just your breathing control. So just kind of lying down, keeping yourself nice and comfortable. Just spend at least 10 breaths of you just breathing in and out with control, keeping that nice relaxation rate. And then you can log back into the meeting so we can have our closing moments together. It's always optional. If you just want to lead, that's okay.